Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
We started using some of your cases, Mr. Peña,
Okay.
the Score Easy Store case, and then we did Pixar, and we just were getting ready to start our third one.
Yeah. Okay. So
Unfortunately, the two don't work. They're too frothy. The price, but
all right, so this scorestore.com case, two people, they wanted to make piano sheet music for online, and they'll be able to make the music online and send music online and print this music, papers, but all their numbers are based on projections. And like you say, you never seen business plan not work on paper, and they have EBITDA projections and even valuation projections of 15.1 times EBITDA. And this is pre-profit, pre-anything, and they're projecting about $150,000 in EBITDA, but they have no real way of really even explaining how they're going to get this $150,000, which might be reasonable. They might be able to get this.
But just like no business plan fails on paper.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So
just think about, for those of you that have had a deal, a startup, just an idea, and you went to try to raise money. Your thing was just full of much shit as this is, and yet there's a moron that will put up money. There's always a moron if you look hard enough.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't understand coming from a professional finance background, because when you're a fresh, young analyst intern, you're in a room about this size that has 5,000 business plans, none of which are going to work, but they teach you how to read them in the beginning. And so, and we're eliminating those. One, we're not doing startups. Two, we're not doing turnarounds. And three, that it's got a cash flow at a level that's acceptable to us using our EBITDA parameters. So that eliminates 98 or 99 or almost 100% of all potential deals that we look at. And certainly your brother-in-law, your cousin, the guy that you went to school with, for sure. And, it's simple, but you still got to, I don't think I have anybody that I've trained in 31 years that can go through the numbers as quick as I can. But I mean, I can literally go through 100 deals a day, easy. Because I'm only looking at three things. Okay, top line, after-tax income, I had 50%. How many times does that go into the purchase price? If it's more than 5, next. If it's less than 5, okay. That's it. And 3 seconds, 5 seconds.
so when we see that they were asking 15 times EBITDA, it's next. It's not even close to 5.
No,
It's 3 times 5. Your top line, the top number of what you're saying. Yeah.
Correct.
it's not even a real 15 times.
Yeah.
It's their projected.
Yeah, there are private equity that will fund that. There's specialty private equity in Silicon Valley that look for, because Zuckerberg tried to raise money in the beginning. He couldn't. One of his roommates gave him $1,000, if you remember, and he fucked him. And I think somebody else he fucked him. Because normally those guys, when you're doing the roommate at Harvard or the roommate wherever, it's like the Twinkle House twins, those fucking doofuses, and he allegedly stole the idea from the Twinkle House boys, so he heard it. I don't know where he heard the idea. It doesn't really matter, and why, whether the real reason he set it up for a dating system. Of course, back then, Zuckerberg couldn't buy a blowjob. I mean, he was an ugly little fucker. So, I mean, but we all got a reason, we all got a baggage, but I have eliminated it down, and the test is, and this is the test that Carnegie used to use, can it handle 100% debt service, commercial debt? If it can't, next. Now, not that many deals can handle 100% debt service, 100% debt. And that's not the only reason why banks ask for some equity portion, but that's how it started, because you couldn't. Plus, they wanted somebody to have some skin in the game. So if the thing went in the toilet, you suffered somehow.
Our second case, then, do you want to do this, the Walt Disney one also?
It's even worse.
Well, at least they
Is
have
this
real
Pixar?
numbers.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
that worked out, and at least they had real numbers, not projected EBITDA and projected.
Wasn't it 25 or 50 times?
Yes, I think it's 30. I'm opening it right now. Yeah, it was 33 and almost 33 and a half times EBITDA multiple.
50 was off net income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said, Mr. Peña, I know you've said it a couple of times, but real quick, you say net income, you look at the net income, you add 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the top line sales, revenue, turnover, whatever you want to call it? Okay. What is the after-tax income? Add roughly 50% onto the after-tax income to get the EBITDA or free cash flow. How many times is that number going to the asking sales price? If it's more than 5, next. If it's less than 5, yeah, you look at it. So if, let's just say they did 10 million in revenue and they were asking 10 million. So, and they make $1 million, $1.5 million EBITDA. How many times does $1.5 million go into 10? 6. Next. But you may go to 300, but somebody's got to make those numbers. And I used to use, I told you, interns from law schools. Before I had employees, they could go through of course, whenever they give me these numbers, there'd be a 15-page summary because they felt obligated to, All I want is the fucking numbers, kids. In this room, we used to sit there. All I want is the numbers. Oh, well, we did a lot. I don't care how much work. I'm paying you. If you spent 6 hours, I'll pay for the 6 hours. But all I want is the numbers. And we had a flash thing that we'd go through numbers. Wow. Then I get tired and go take a nap or have a cup of coffee or a drink. And then we go through a bunch more.
So if it's 5 or more, it's next.
Next. Because we want to pay 3. But we put the lure out there 5. Now, sometimes we have paid 5. We had seller finance on. We'll give you the extra 20%. Seller finance, as the Canadian guy did, and he said he got fucked. He gave him $4 million when he should have only given him $2 million. But they stretched it out. He should have not just stretched it out 4 years. He should have stretched it out 8 or 9 years. And I've told you before, sometimes you can pay double what the fucking thing's worth because he's bragged at the country club or the 24 hours fitness that he's going to get so many million. Fine, don't make him a liar. But it's got over 9 million years. That's an exaggeration. Because again, it's not your fucking money. You got to pretend that it's monopoly money. And that's hard. Coming from the family office guys. Now, the family office guys that are being managed by family, it's almost impossible for them to pay double. But a lot of big not medium-sized family offices are managed by investment professionals. It's easy for them to discern that, because there's a lot of things they've overpaid for over the years. And the good news is, you don't know if you really overpaid for it until you exit. And some of these guys have exited, myself included, at less than we put in. And that's a sobering feeling. 11 years later, and I'm not even talking about a discounted cash flow basis. I'm just, we put in 12 million, we sold it for 6. Something didn't work.
How does that? I mean, if it's non-recourse, then it's the bank that lost that,
well, exactly,
or the company, right?
Yeah. And if you fail, the worst thing that happens is you give it back. And I have given 2 or 3 back. 2 or 3 back. And they never believe you. You come in with all the keys and all the safety, all the bullshit, and you drop it on the credit officer's desk. Or you send it by messenger, and Mr. Peña or you will be around 11:30 to explain what you just got delivered. 60 sets of keys and keys to cars and trucks and fucking everything. And, the keys at the locker room, at the country club. I don't understand, Mr. Peña. I mean, well, we're giving it all back to you because we're walking away. I better get the senior manager in here. And it's not funny. But if you owe the money and it's recourse money, it's certainly not funny. But if you do it right, and I'm not saying that you should be cavalier about this, but better they get stuck with the fucking bill than you. It's like the Indians that sold Manhattan for 3 bones and some, whatever they sold it for. Those guys got fucked.
To the Dutch. Didn't they
Correct.
sell? Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Louisiana Purchase, when the America bought Louisiana Purchase, which was about a third of the U.S. at that time, from the French, $12 million. And they made fun of the Secretary of Interior, whatever it was at that time. They said, what a moron, $12 million for a third of the United States. Sounds pretty good to me, even then. And the story, I don't know if this part of the story is, and they never paid the $12 million in full. But anyway, I don't know if that's, that's hard to ascertain in the history books.
So basically, I mean, as long as almost doesn't matter the necessary.
No, it doesn't matter. Not almost doesn't matter.
So it doesn't matter the cost as long as the price of the business for sale, as long as cash flow covers debt service.
Okay, when you go to a bank, it's in Seminar 1. By definition, the banks already know, they don't use these words, that it's easier to buy revenue than create it organically. But a company that's got, an example that we used was with Andreas, 30 months, he had already 30 million in revenue turnover, and he's buying a business from a guy in Dusseldorf or whatever. It took him 30 years to create 5 million. Okay. How much money did it cost him to create that 5 million? $1 billion? You don't know. So it's already partially, if not totally, de-risked in the bank's eyes. So it doesn't matter. As long as the current cash flow, free cash flow, covers current potential debt service. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's a hard concept for senior guys that you're going to have on your boards to swallow. Just as when I told you we were with Trey.
That's what I was going to bring up. Back some funny.
Yeah,
say that.
3 credits: purchase price, working capital, and line of credit, and use the line of credit to pay for the fees. And these guys had a lot of fucking experience around the table, but they didn't think of that because it's not a normal. It's not the Harvard B school way to buy businesses. Somebody's putting up 20, 30, 40%, and then the debt is after the equity portion, the debt is based on whatever is left over. And what Jason Nagy figured out right away in Australia, the normal loan to LTV loan parameters are normally 60% of whatever 100% purchase price is. They'll loan you 60%, sometimes 65%, and Jason's got them up to 70%. Well, at 65%, you're over-financing the thing by 5% to 60%, which is almost 10%. You're over-financing it by 10% because he's only buying 60%. And then you have an option or whatever it is to buy the other 40, and sometimes you don't buy the other 40. The worst case scenario is, and I don't recommend this at all, is you have to buy roughly twice as many companies to build a huge company because you're only buying 60%. And worst case scenario is you give it back to them. That's only happened to me 3 times in 53. Next week will be 54 years. It's happened to me twice personally, where I had to give the assets back, and it's only happened to one of you guys once in 31 years, where they defaulted and a bunch of other things happened. Divorce, his child died, his wife left him, blah, 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 blah.
And that's in the 60-40 model, right?
Correct, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
because you're only buying 60%, roughly. Good.
What was the biggest first, or how big was that first deal Trey did? 40 million or 90 million?
38 million.
38.
And if he was sitting right here, I didn't believe when Peña said he didn't know anything, but then after I did it, I knew less than Peña, so I knew less than nothing. But he made a lot of calls, etc. And sometimes, just as the Canadian guy, he's had 2 lucky horseshoes up his ass. And if you're right place at the right time. It's like the guy that called me on New Year's Eve. Danny, I need a favor. I need to sell this to you over the fax machine. And I paid less than they had in the bank. I got a 4-story building on Curzon Street. And I got the father of the North Sea on my board, the CFO of Royal Dutch Shell, and the CFO, I forget, he joined us later. And I said, thanks, Jack. And then I went to see what I bought in March, April, and saw there was, But I'm running around in those days. G2s, these guys, they like me and I'm aggressive, and so they're letting me use the plane. It's embarrassing. Don't show up representing us, our partnership, in a fucking plane you got to squat over like a midget. And they use awful words, fucking dwarf cocksucker and blah, blah, blah. But that was the language in those days. And in the oil business, still the language. I mean, they call people up here, it's packy bastard if you have dark skin. You come back from a Cyprus vacation, you're a packy bastard. Today, yesterday. And that's not right. I don't condone it, but I mean, I'm not here to change, They're still crying about the English having their foot on their neck for 700 years. So, I mean, and there's certain parts of the world, it's not your job to change the culture. It's not your, When I buy Biden's house, I got my boys looking to make sure that it won't be on the market because I'll be buying it. And when I move in, people will move out. Your property values will go down. And then I said, well, I know, I'm tight with one of the neighbors here, Been here since 1162 or 1066 with William the Conqueror. His family came here when William the Conqueror came to Britain, 1066.
The home health presentation was interesting. It reminded me of our case, different of the pharmacy case we did yesterday, meaning like how just the income kind of just cranks income, no depreciation. I know it's a different management situation, but on the financial statements, it looked somewhat similar. It seems to me a lot of that's all about getting a relationship with the hospitals, correct?
There's only one relationship, and it's somebody that has a relationship with the hospital. Now, you pray that the first acquisition you have is not going to be that easy, So you have to factor in overhead you're going to have to find somebody. And and I alluded to it earlier today, a hospital administrator stepping down after 25 or 40 years with Cardinal or someplace, and he, she, or it will know a gazillion hospitals. And then you're off and running. But then you want more than him, because people retire, people die, people this, that, and the other thing. And they'll be, calling their contacts. And I've already mentioned Simon, the German guy. He wasn't a hospital administrator, but he was a senior hospital practitioner. And so he left when he saw that he was giving business to all these hospitals, all these home health places. He says, why not me? And so now he's done it, and he's got not his whole family, but almost his entire family involved. Not in his business, by the way. They have separate businesses. He doesn't want to have anything to do with them.
And you put that person on your board as an industry expert, typically?
Yeah. Or in some cases as CEO. It depends, just how vast is his experience.
And what if you're in a fragmented industry? Fragmented meaning there's multiple hospitals. One person in your market's not going to have a relationship with.
Well, you don't know.
Yeah.
The big universities have degrees in hospital administration, a master's in hospital administration. The guy that is the head of that program at the university will have relationships with thousands of hospitals.
Well, I would imagine there's some geographic location to it as well. I mean, each hospital, relatively speaking, there's only so many mile radius that they're sending people to, right?
Yeah. Well, some hospitals have Dallas-Fort Worth area has got
big city, yeah,
30, 40 hospitals.
Yeah.
Houston's got 30, 40 hospitals. Miami and all these guys have 30, 40 hospitals. And you may want somebody that is Hispanic. You may want somebody that is, white. You may want somebody that's black. That their orientation will be specific, or at least more specific, towards their own ethnicity. But there's no shortage. Since the insurance companies stopped the hospitals from keeping the people overnight as much as they can, and since hospitals want you to get out, have your therapy at home, which is cheaper than having the therapy at the hospital, I mean, this model has exploded. It's always been around, but now it's just exploded. And you start there, as the Viking bitch said, she's in 19 verticals now. Billing, staffing, all kinds of things. Hospital, chiropractic, dentists, doctors.
Does that make it more difficult to scale, though?
Well, now, as it turned out, she's building up a medical conglomerate, small medical conglomerate. And of course, then her board, she gets sick. You know, I still, you never think it's going to be you. One of you in this room, it's going to happen to. Doesn't mean they have to be successful, but one in the size of the group that we have will be unsuccessful in defending himself. At least one. Even though you've heard all this shit. Not shit, but I mean all this information. Because you never think. You never think. As opposed to Cadaver, Gutierrez, who's a hard money lender. He's a bar buster. He runs out and takes your car away and he repossesses your grandmother's house. That's the business he's in. So he's got no trouble fucking these people over, believe me. Okay? And he knows. He keeps saying, you got to be careful about this, about that, about this. And because he knows it happens. You know? He hopes you don't have malpractice insurance. So he can squeeze your balls. But I mean, he's a bottom feeder. He's a bottom feeder.